Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into lacrosse at the college level. My guest today is Michele DeJuliis, and she's the CEO and founder of the Women's Professional Lacrosse League. And welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So usually I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
I went to Penn State University. Graduated in 1998. Played lacrosse there for all 4 years and ended up, continuing my lacrosse career at the U.S. level.
Great.
Yeah.
So let's just go back in time first. So go back into high school. How did you end up picking Penn State as the school for lacrosse?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Baltimore, so it's a lacrosse hotbed. And that was, I started playing lacrosse in 9th grade. I picked it up and loved it right from the start, and just, I couldn't wait to get to the next level and compete. And so, when I was looking at schools, I wanted a big school. I wanted to be close enough for my parents to get to some games, but far enough away to get some separation. And I wanted big time athletics. And so that played a large part in my decision making, but also finding the right fit and feeling like it was home and feeling like the people that I was going to be spending my 4 years with were going to be like family. And I found that comfort in my coach. She was amazing. She was really like a mother figure to me. And, I just enjoyed playing under her. And in the academic side, it offered everything that I could possibly want. If, they had so many options as far as majors went, but I knew what I wanted to focus on, and they had that, and so it was a no-brainer for me.
So did it start as early as freshman year in high school, or did everything start coming as recruiting junior or senior year?
Freshman year, I had no idea what I was going to be doing as far as athletics in college. But when I started to catch that fever, I knew that it was going to be something I was going to be doing for quite some time. So it was junior year really when I started to think about the schools. It's much earlier these days, but back then it was more so you do your visits and or your senior year, you do some overnight visits.
And was it Penn State only, or did you have many schools?
I had quite a few schools on my list: Penn State, Maryland, Loyola, Virginia. I think at the time Temple, James Madison.
Wow.
So kind of all over the place. More so of some of the bigger lacrosse programs at the time.
And it was really just the coach at Penn State that really sold you on the school?
You walk on campus there and everybody bleeds blue and white. So that passion they have for their school, it was just overwhelming. And the football games, and just really it was an amazing experience. So, but ultimately, like I said, I wanted to feel like I was going to be taken care of, and I felt that there.
So now you're at Penn State. What's lacrosse like at Penn State? How does it all work?
I'm sure it's changed since then, but you're in the fall, you're playing 5 times a week, and you're managing your classes and getting out in the gym, and you're doing your your workout sessions with your lifting coaches, and doing agilities and conditioning and everything like that. And then come the spring, you're playing 5 days a week and playing games on the weekends. And so it can be a lot for a college kid to manage as far as your time. So classes all day, practice in the afternoon, and games on the weekend. And that's just what you did. You eat, slept, and breathe lacrosse.
So take me through a year in lacrosse at the college level. When do the lacrosse players get there? Is it August, September? How does the whole year work?
I think it depends school to school, but for some of the bigger sports schools, ACCs, Big Tens, you're coming in August, middle August, and you start getting into your classes, and then once you get a couple weeks under your belt, the practices start up, and it lasts for about 5 to 6 weeks. Some coaches go a little bit shorter, some go longer, some don't use all 5 days or the hours that you're allotted, so it really depends, but we usually used the majority of the time that was allotted, so we would go 5 days a week, and you're doing that, and then you have, of course, your breaks that you can get home, and and see some family, and then but you're still doing your training on your own when you're home, and then when you get back to school in January, it starts up full time. So you're pretty much on the field when you're not in the classroom all the time.
And then what happens in the summer months before you go back to school? Do you play outside lacrosse?
Then, I mean, now kids do, they kind of, they pick up sticks and play with some other kids that are home from college. Back then, I was just more so training on the training packet that our lifting coaches would send to us. So we would be doing that, it would be like a 4 to 6 week program. Wow. And so you're coming back ready to go for do it all over again,
So now, how does someone go from playing lacrosse at Penn State to running a professional women's lacrosse league?
It's funny because when I left Penn State, I was teaching. I got a teaching job, and I had known that, I always wanted to teach. I always wanted to make an impact. I wanted to help kids develop, and I just found a passion for that. And then I kind of took a little curve, a little change in my career path. I ended up becoming a police officer in Baltimore City. And it was totally, it was just something that I'm also a competitive person, so I just wanted to get into some action. I wanted to be able to make a difference in the town, that I was from. And so I did. I went through the academy, became a cop. And I wanted more action than just an everyday street cop. I went into the SWAT program, and I did that for 5 years, and saw some things that probably most people shouldn't see. But it was an amazing life experience, one I'll never forget. I'm glad I'm out of there. But I ended up actually leaving that to go to Princeton to coach under Chris Saylor. Wow. And so I spent 8 years there, and it was a great experience. Princeton's a wonderful university, had amazing people, amazing young women that we recruited to play, and it was just a great experience overall.
Wow. And so what's the recruiting process like? How do you find kids to come at the college level?
Yeah, I mean, again, at most schools, you're, with Princeton and the Ivy League, you're looking for an academic criteria that, might be a little bit more difficult than other schools. So we're kind of taking kids' information and finding out where they are academically, whether they're freshmen, sophomores, depending on how they roll out. You're looking at that list. Yeah. And then you're going to all the recruiting events during the summer, which there are so many now that are every weekend. So you're attending these tournaments, you're getting, packets, and you're going to field and watching games and watching kids weekend after weekend, and, adding kids and taking kids off. And the ones that meet that criteria, the level, their ability being a high level and highly skilled players, and then the ones that meet the academic criteria, how we really weeded out kids. And then you're doing it all in the fall, and it's year-round, it's cyclical, it never stops, and,
Well, what are some of the attributes that someone needs to play at the college level for lacrosse?
Athleticism is huge. Their size, their strength, their pure, just how they move on the field. You're looking for kids that understand the game. You can teach them a lot of skill. Right. And that stuff, some kids come in not as polished as others, but the bottom line is that that's part of your job. You're teaching that they're going to become better no matter what. And some kids, coming out of school might be at a certain level, and then other kids surpass them through that high school training. So, you never know what you're going to get by the time they get to school. You're hopeful that they become, more and more skilled through their high school years. But once they get to you're looking for the most athletic kid that you can get on the field, that you can train, but you want them to have, a good head on their shoulders, and to understand the game, and have, be aggressive and be physical, but under control. And, there are a lot of pieces to the game that go into it.
So now, what are some of the events that a high school student would have to do in lacrosse in the summer months? What do they do? A club team? Do they have to go to specific lacrosse events? to get recognized?
Yeah, I mean, there are club teams. I run one myself, and there are, like, I would say, over 300 young girls club teams across the country. So yeah, they train 2 to 3 times a week, and then on the weekends they're playing in tournaments. And those tournaments are mainly on the East Coast. There are some in the Midwest, but there's some out in California, but the majority of them are here, and a lot of teams travel, and so there's great competition. You could have tournaments that have 50 teams and tournaments that have 300 teams. So you think about that many kids at one event, and having to get out and see as many as you can when you're recruiting it can be brutal.
Yeah. Are there specific events that people go after? Yeah,
there's a lot that are high quality events that really put it on a proper fields that the kids get a good experience. So that they're going to come with full size fields, and the coaches are getting all the information that they need in their recruiting packets. So you just want to go where they're going to get full games and 4 games over a weekend and things like that.
Is it a particular state that has better events that they plan than others, or?
There are so many different companies out there that run events, and everybody they do their best to put on the best event that they can. And there are a lot that are in primarily Baltimore, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. There are a couple up in New York, but the majority of them are, I would say, in those 4 states.
And then what type of kids do they look for academically? Like Ivy League, I guess, looks for the higher academic kids. How about a Big Ten school or an ACC school? Are they looking for the same academic type kids?
I mean, they have some wiggle room, whereas the Ivies don't necessarily have that amount of space to dip. Mm-hmm. You obviously, and as club owners, you want to tell your kids the higher academic you are, the better opportunities you're going to give yourself. And I'm sure most of those coaches are saying the same things. Of course, that they might be able to get a kid that is a lot lower than a kid that might, that Princeton might be looking at. Mm-hmm. But, and that is where the challenge lies, right, for the Ivies. They can't necessarily get all those kids that are amazing athletes that might not test as well. So yeah, it really fluctuates between, there's a certain level that, kids can get, and if once they reach that level, the world's open to them, whereas other kids that are really looking at those Ivy schools, are going to have to increase their scores and have good transcripts.
Now, financially, for schools are expensive these days. Yeah. So how does a Division I, Big Ten school, did they have scholarships at those Big Ten type schools compared to an Ivy League school?
Yeah, I mean, Ivies don't give out scholarships, and all the other schools, there's a ton of schools that obviously do. It really depends anyway, year to year, on how much money they have to give. How many scholarships that they have. Most full scholarship schools have 12 scholarships to give. Mm-hmm. And, if you're losing a senior class is leaving you with X amount of money, that's what you have to give. Mm-hmm. So you're just constantly trying to figure out, what one kid's worth to you versus another. And that can be a hard process, and it can be a hard process for families. Because of course you think your kids are the greatest things on the earth, but you need to understand that some coaches are trying to create a group of players that can help them win. Yeah. And so, some families have a lot of money and some don't, and you might have to give a little bit more here or there. And it's just really kind of a, equation that they've got to figure out depending on what they've got available.
So now your 8 years at Princeton end, and you start a women's lacrosse league? Is that how it starts?
Prior to that, I started an event company. So we run some ultimate events in sports. We run a couple of lacrosse tournaments as well for recruiting, and some youth tournaments that we're really focused on giving a great experience. And so I started doing that, and then I guess this past year we decided to move ahead and create a women's professional league. But we had a different focus. Like, we really want to create an opportunity for women to play at the highest level, compete against the best in the world. but we want to create an opportunity for these women to be seen as maybe another opportunity for U.S. Lacrosse to come and evaluate, or any other country. These women can be playing from Australia. We've got Australians in the league. We've got Canadians in the league. And so it's just another training ground for them, to participate in. But with that being said, we also created a youth, like a young program that is a development program in 12 regions in our first year, and then it'll go to 16 and 20 and 24. And ideally what we are doing is implementing leadership training and some non-cognitive development. And our main focus really is impulse control and and just bringing these girls along and really caring about them as people. Wow. And for the pros, we're looking for personal and professional development, and for the young women, the leadership and the non-cognitive skills, which is really something that's big these days.
So do you get a lot of college kids for the lower part of your group, and then the professionals, they graduate from college and want to get into that?
Yeah, so actually all the pros have to be post-collegiate, and all of the programming for development is 9th and 10th, 11th grade. Wow. And then we do have, they're called our Futures program, and then we have a junior pro, which is the Rising College Freshman. And we've created a foundation, so it's the WPLL Foundation, where we're raising money that will pay for some of this programming for those young girls to enjoy and get the benefit of what we're doing. We also have a Chasers program that is kids that don't get selected to the Futures program. We want to help bring them along, so we give them like a 3-day intensive in character development, and then we try to help close the gap, and then maybe one of those kids in the following year will actually make one of the Futures teams. Fantastic. So yeah, it's great. It's really, it's going to be an awesome opportunity for our pros to be connected to the young women and help them become the next generation future leader. So it's exciting.
So now the pro league, is it sponsored? Do you have sponsors? Do these people get paid? These women are all getting paid?
Yeah, we are sponsored currently by Under Armour. We've got a couple other smaller sponsors as well, but we are paying these women per game. They get paid. It's not breaking the bank, but it's something. We want them to have a great experience, and obviously we're going to do everything we can to give them an amazing experience every time they step on the field. Mm-hmm. And as we get bigger and get more sponsors, we will certainly pay them for it. But we've created some of the programming to help pay these women directly, and then we also have them help participate in clinics where we can do some youth development, and that can go all the way down, to kindergarten, all the way up. So, we'll pay them for any appearance that they make. We really want this to be about them and developing them as professionals and helping them get to whatever career it is that they want to get to. We're going to create a mentoring program to connect them with people, and it's just really exciting. It's starting to really come together.
Yeah. So is this something where the Olympics? They all go to the Olympics? Is this something that inspires them to get to this league because the Olympics is what they're looking for?
Well, right now in women's lacrosse, there's a World Cup every 4 years. Now, we think that the Olympics will be in the near future, hopefully in the next, within the next 8 years. That would be amazing. That would be wonderful for everybody. Right. So yeah, we want to do whatever we can to work with U.S. Lacrosse to help provide any kind of extra training, and we're tweaking the rules in the pro women's game as compared to the college game and to any of the youth, the high school rules, and it's just very different. It's faster, it's more scoring. It's a lot more exciting because there are more man-up situations, and it's fun to watch. 2-point shots. I mean, it's really cool. So
how many teams are part of the league right now?
Right now there are 5. So we have the Baltimore Brave, Philly Fire, the New England Command, we have Upstate Pride, and we have the New York Fight.
Wow, fantastic. Yeah. So just going back into college now, so these kids, is it all about just lacrosse, or do you give them focus on academics and graduating, getting a good job afterwards? Is that part of the philosophy as well?
For the pro league?
No, for college.
Yeah, for my kids that are in club, our focus is academics first. Use academics to get the best, or use lacrosse to get to the best academic school you can possibly get. So we really pound home that we want you to do well in school. We want you to stay focused and do your studies. And anybody that has something that that has to do with school and they have to miss something for lacrosse, absolutely, we prioritize that. You need to make sure that you're always doing what's asked of you schoolwork wise first.
Yeah.
We want to help support them in any way we can. We get very limited time with these young women. We get weekends with them in the fall where we're practicing, but always checking in with regards to how their academic careers are going. And we set up some programming that the kids can go in and kind of research colleges and what is the right fit for them with where they are right now. With regards to their transcripts and where their scores are. And we just kind of whittle through. I mean, some kids start off with lists with like 50 and, they whittle it down to 15. And then sometimes you're like, okay, well, these schools are finished, so let's add some more, and just trying to help them find the right fit. Yeah. It can be challenging because some kids, the parents can't necessarily afford to take them all over the place to do visits. And you have to kind of go off of your research online and ask around. And we're pretty knowledgeable about most of the schools and the coaches that are at those programs. And, we encourage the kids to get to campus and talk to the normal students, and really find out what it's like.
So now, when you were a coach at Princeton University, what was the procedure that Princeton University took? They still came in August. They still did the fall sport. They went through the spring and then summer.
It's a little bit different because Ivies have a different rules. The girls would come in September. We'd have about 4 weeks of playing, and they would go 3 to 4 times a week, mainly 3. And then the other days you're doing lifting and conditioning, and then it would end by, you would have, I think it's the same now. It was 9 total practice dates, and then you could have 12 dates, but 3 of them were used for competition. And so you'd have those weekends, and then once that was over, then it was just strictly captain's practices, weight training and conditioning. And then you have fall break and winter break, and then in January they could come back for just 2 days, and then they can't start practice until February 1st. And so at that time, they're training hard, and that's going like 6 days a week, and then your games start, the end of February, early March.
And then they end, there's an NCAA tournament, I guess?
So they would play all the way through until the end of April, and then, we did pretty well most years, and Princeton's doing quite well now. They're seeing the NCAA tournament, absolutely. They have an Ivy League tournament, and then the NCAAs usually are in the first week of May.
And that usually goes, if you're the champion, you go all the way until June?
I believe you'd go, till the end, Memorial Day weekend.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And then, those kids in the summer months, what happens in the summer months for those kids? They do club?
Those kids are like picking up a stick, doing the training packets that the coaches send home. They're probably playing as much as they can, getting into some summer leagues. They're coaching camps. They're playing pickup at camps with the other coaches and doing whatever they can to stay involved in the game.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then grade-wise, at the Ivy League school, just are they looking at SAT scores, ACT scores, and GPA?
Yeah, they're doing a combination of all of them. You're looking for, the right fit, but the academic index is a little calculation that is your score and your transcripts, and so they compile that number, and At Princeton, I know it was like, you reach a certain academic index, and the higher the better, obviously, and you can recruit those kids, and those kids are the kind of, the ones that you really want on your list, and you hope that they're really smart and they're really athletic. But like I said, sometimes you don't have those kids that don't, they might not have the highest AI, but you might have some other kids that have higher AIs, and it averages out, and it works out for your list. So that's kind of how they go about it.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So we're coming to the end of our show. Usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the parents out there that their daughters want to play at the college level and want to eventually go to the professional rank?
Yeah.
What advice you want to give them?
I would say just stay focused on the academics, because, like I said, the higher the better, and the more opportunities you give yourself. You want to make sure that you have a wide range of schools that you can consider, and staying focused in the classroom is really key. Do your research on all the schools and what they have to offer. Whether, if you didn't have lacrosse, you want to make sure that you're happy there. So, the social life, the academic situation, I always tell kids, you want to get on campus, you want to eat their food, you want to see their dorms, you want to do all that. But I think it's really important that if you were to get injured and you didn't have that sport that you love so much, would you still love the school? So make sure you're doing that research, and know that you'd be happy there no matter what.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.